Welcome to Pointless Conversations. I'm your host, Jesse, and today we're talking about One Piece. So, One Piece is one of my favorite animes, and if you don't know what One Piece is, it's pretty much a anime about pirates, but it's more than that. One Piece started as a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Ichiro Oda. It has been serialized in Shonen Manga Magazine or Weekly Shonen Jump since 1997. And it's been running, still running ever since. Um, and the story follows the adventures of Monkey D. Luffy and his crew, the Straw Hat Pirates, where he explores the Grand Line in search of the mystical treasure known as the One Piece in order to become the next king of the pirates. So, yeah, that's pretty much what One Piece is. And I remember in the beginning that I was not a huge fan of this series for some reason. Because at the time that this series came out as an anime, because it was a manga first, but as an anime, um, it was during a time where Dragon Ball Z was very popular, Gundam, Sailor Moon. It was like the anime boom was happening, and then Pokemon was happening. So there was a lot of anime. Like there was a resurgence during this time, thank mostly due to Cartoon Network having Toonami, and then other like WB Kids, um, which was kids programming block. What was once the WB network, and now it's the CW. Um, but yeah, it was a time where there was a lot of anime. So the only ones I were watching at the time was Dragon Ball Z, and uh, I was into Pokemon. And granted, I was like a teenager during this time, so I was reading everything there is about anime, and I was trying to watch anime. Like I was just obsessed with anime in general. And then One Piece I just saw like one time on again Kids WB, but it was the four kids. It was the four kids dub, and if you don't know what Four Kids is, they also dubbed the Pokemon series, and there was a couple other series that they did, but they did a horrible job. Um, they censored a lot of things in Pokemon. They would change things to make it more American. Yeah, Four Kids dubs were awful. So they did a Four Kids dub for One Piece. When I saw it, it was like, oh my god, this show sounds stupid, and then the opening was this really lame rap, which some people like, but I don't know. I just never got into One Piece during that time period because I just thought it was lame, and I thought Dragon Ball Z was better, and there was other animes at the time that I just thought was better. I was even watching during that time, I think Cowboy Bebop and everything, and I just thought that it was lame. But then, obviously, I was wrong because I wouldn't be talking about it right now. But yeah, years later, when streaming services started to become more of a thing, and you have your Netflix and your Prime Video and all that stuff, um, you know, Netflix and you, you know, all the streaming services that are out there currently. Um, and then there was Crunchyroll, which I was like, what? A certain obviously I'm still obsessed with anime, so of course I subscribed to Crunchyroll, and there it was, literally the entire series of One Piece, and I was like, you know what? Let me just check it out. Like let me just see what all the fuss is about, because I knew other people who did enjoy it, but I didn't get it at the time. But yeah, I gave it a shot, and I saw it for the first time. This time subtitled, and I heard the Japanese voices, and I was like, oh, I kind of like this better. And then the opening song, the original opening was so catchy, and I'm like, why didn't the American version, the American dub go with this? I don't know. They were stupid, but yeah, I gave it a shot, and then I kept watching and watching, and I was still like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep watching this. And then I get deeper into certain arcs and stuff, and then all of a sudden I'm like hooked. And I didn't get hooked until we got to the Arlong Park arc. That's when I really, because I'll probably get into why I got into this certain arc. Um, there's a lot of emotional beats in this arc. Um, but let's just talk about like the main cast of characters that you meet in this show, because it's just so good. Um, so the main character obviously is Monkey D. Luffy. He's like our main protagonist. That's my cat meowing. If anyone hears a cat in the background. So yeah, we have Monkey D. Luffy. He's the main protagonist. Uh, he's a captain of the Straw Hat Crew, because that's what the main pirates that you follow through the series um, is named after the Straw Hat, because he wears a straw hat that his mentor named Shanks it's gave it to him. And without getting into spoilers or anything like that, if you want to start with One Piece, uh, Shanks is like a mentor to him. Like it inspired him to become a pirate. But another thing about One Piece is that there's pirates in this show that have powers and characters that have powers. And it's due to this thing called the devil fruit. So there's this thing in One Piece called the devil fruit, and if you eat it, it will give you some kind of like powers. That's the idea behind that. So in our case, our main protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy, he ate the gum gum fruit. That's what his devil fruit was called. And when he ate that, it literally changed his body to rubber. And he pretty much has stretching powers. That is like his main, like that's how he fights. When he fights and my cat is like going nuts, I don't know why. He, can you can you be quiet for like a second? And then my neighbors are also playing loud music, so if you hear that, I apologize in advance. I'm recording this in my room. I'm sorry. But anyways, that's the captain of the Straw Hat Crew is Monkey D. Luffy, and he's one of my favorite characters. Um, Without getting into too much like boring details, he inspires, and he will fight for what's good, and he will fight. If you're on his good side, he will fight to the bitter end with you. Like he loyalty and friendship is what Luffy is all about, and fighting the good fight and fighting for the oppressed. Like we need more people like that in the real world when you think about it. And then the second crew member of the Straw Hat Crew is Zoro Rona. He is the swordsman of the Straw Hat Crew, and he is the first member of the Straw Hat Crew and vice captain of the Straw Hat Crew. That's his title. And he's unique because he's like the most Japanese character in the crew of One Piece. He has katanas. He's the most Japanese of the entire crew of One Piece. He has katanas. He has three of them because he has a fighting style called the three swords style. It's sword combat where he literally holds two katanas in his hands, and then the third one he holds it in his mouth. And he fights like that, and he's a badass, and he's one of my favorite characters. Then we get to the third member, Usopp. Usopp is the sniper of the Straw Hat crew, and he's one of the more like funnier characters in the group, and he's kind of cowardly, but at the end of the day he always does what's right, and he his friendship with Luffy is like so cute and so lovable. It's just he's a great character. I like him a lot. um, then we get to Nami, who is oops, excuse me, I just burped there. Nami, who is the navigator of the Straw Hat pirate crew, and she is literally the one who tells them what direction they're going to when they're sailing the seas. And then the other member is Sanji. He is the cook of the Straw Hat crew, and he loves all. He is like the more woman obsessed person of the crew, but it's really funny. It's like it's really like a lot of comedy comes from him just obsessing and over women, and I he's a really fun character, and he's the cook. Um, then we have Nico Robin, who's the archaeologist of the Straw Hat crew, and she's cool. She has so the other members I just mentioned, they don't have any powers. They're just regular people. They just really good fighters. Then we got Nico Robin, who's the second one in the crew to have devil fruit powers. And she started out as a villain, and she ate the Bloom Bloom devil fruit, which that made her powers. Her powers are kind of weird, actually. Her powers is that she could sprout limbs and legs out of anywhere. Like, just, yeah, it's hard to describe, but she could, like, arms and legs, like, could just sprout out of walls and stuff at will. So that's her. Hers is called the Bloom Bloom Devil Fruit. That's her powers. Uh, and she's the navigator. And then we have Tony Chopper. Tony Chopper is the doctor of the crew, and was a normal reindeer. So he's the only character who's technically an animal in the Straw Hat crew. But he ate the human fruit, which allowed him to pretty much have human characteristics and talk. And he is the doctor. And yes, it sounds absurd that a reindeer would be a doctor, but he has a whole backstory how he became a doctor and how he learned to be a doctor. So it's very cute. It's one of the best like backstories. Very nice. And then we have Frankie, who he is the shipwright. Like he builds ships. That's like his thing. And he does not have devil fruit, but he's kind of a cyborg. He's a half man, half robot um, member of the crew, and he's kind of like the most American, I think, in the Straw Hat crew. Like he's the most American, I think, because he from what I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but at least in this first design, because he gets like a little bit, he changes his look as the series progresses. But he had like an Ace Ventura kind of hairdo, so I don't know if he was inspired by Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura, but that's what I've heard. Um, he's a cool character. Then we have Brooke. Brooke is the musician of the Straw Hat Crew, um, and he got the revive fruit, meaning that he died, but having eaten the fruit, he became undead. So he's technically a walking, talking skeleton who happens to be a musician. And he is the last member of the, well, not really. I just forgot the last member of the crew is Jimbei, who his design is really cool. He's like a whale. He's a whale shark fish man, and he was a warlord. Which, in the mythology of One Piece, there's certain pirates that cooperate or negotiate with the world government. Um, he eventually becomes a member of. He's the most recent member of the Straw Hat Crew, or yeah, he's like a big bluefish dude. Um, but yeah, that is like the crew so far since the series has started. Um, so after the introduction of that, of all those characters, and you have an idea what these characters are, um, I really didn't get in. So the character of Nami, her arc is the Arlong Park arc, and I knew I fell in love with this series with this arc because Nami is going through, without getting into details and like spoilers territory, um, she's having a rough time in this episode, and due to some villains that pop up and her backstory that you get, it's a very sad backstory. And there's a scene in this story arc where she's crying, and Luffy knows she's in pain and stuff, and she asks for his help. And then the one thing that Luffy treasures a lot is his straw hat because he got it from the person who inspired him to become a pirate in the first place. When he when he literally like puts the hat on Nami when she's crying and she wants his help, and he's like, "You know what? You're part of the crew now. We're going to help you out." And that to me solidified everything that's good about One Piece. Like the friendship and the emotional scenes. Like most of the characters in this show have very tragic, sad backstories, and they all find each other. And that whole camaraderie and friendship thing is what makes One Piece special. I mean, yeah, the fights and the animation some like look really good and stuff, but it's that moment with Nami and Luffy is what really like this show, this anime is for me. And then the arc that comes after that, the Alabasta saga, um, yeah, that was a good one too because they this is when they started to be like world building. They were like, this is like a new land, and there's like politics involved, and the people and like, so you could see that the Oda who writes the manga was world building. So every time the Straw Hat Crew people characters will like go from island to island, it wasn't just like, oh, here's a random island with a bunch of villains or whatever. No, he built a mythology around every single place that they went to, the politics about it, the who's the good guys, who's the bad guy, and then intricate backstories. The characters that weren't even like the main character, and That's what I loved about it. It's like every time you went to it or started a new story arc or a new island, there was like a whole mythology behind that particular place that they are in. And also, Oda would, the author of the manga, like he would also like put set up certain mysteries and certain things and pay them off like 100 episodes later. Like he would set up mysteries, but they would always get like a payoff, or he would set certain things up where you're like, why is this relevant? Um, and then all of a sudden, like, oh my god, it is relevant. He didn't just put this for like no reason. So to me, that's like very unique about this anime is that the mythology behind it and the world building is what I love about it. And another another thing I liked about there's an the Ennis Lobby arc where they're going to rescue Robin and the whole crew is there and Robin is kind of like lost her will to live and then Luffy shows up and then it's such an emotional scene. Like if you haven't seen it, I don't want to like give like too much like if you haven't seen it. But um I mean it's been around for a while, but when she screams out, when she sees her crew coming there to rescue and she screams out like that she actually wants to live. Like she has a reason to live now. I think that's like so like one of the best scenes in One Piece. Like very emotional. Um and then Marineford, you know, the emotional things that happen there because our protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy, or Luffy, he has a brother. He has like two. Technically, they're not blood brothers, but he has like brothers that he considers brothers, but they're both they're not related by blood, but they consider themselves brothers. Um, in the Marineford arc, like that was a very emotional arc because again something happens with his brother and if you haven't seen it before like you'll know what I'm talking about like it's it's so epic like you have all the fight scenes and you have all the a lot of the villains from like past arcs showing up and allies and heroes like everyone all in one place like battling it out to save Luffy's brother. And Luffy's brother's name is Ace. And then his other brother, or he considers his brother, is Sabo. Um, and Sabo's now that I remember, Sabo's like backstory. He comes from like a rich family, um, and he sees a lot. Like he notices like people's lack of empathy and humanity in this society that he was lived in. So that's why he decided to become a pirate. Um, then there's like other like other things about the show. Like it gets political sometimes, and but technically Luffy literally like comes into a certain place, and if he sees any kind of like oppression or people being like he will just come in and like no this is done um in this world there's the world government but the world government to the eyes of the people of this world seems like legit so they and people don't question it too much and the pirates are kind of vilified by the world government of this government because that's what the government and then there's the soldiers that they sent out to catch the pirates called the Marines. So you know the Straw Hat Crew run into the Marines a lot. They're wanted. They're like wanted criminals because you know piracy. They're pirates, but the pirates in this world are not technically. the villains, even though some of the pirates are villains. Like, there's good pirates and then there's bad pirates. Um, but to the world government of this world, like, all pirates are bad. Piracy is bad. So the Straw Hat Crew, they all have they're all wanted by the world government for multiple reasons. I, yeah, it's so complicated to tell like the politics of the show because there's so much backstory and there's so much stuff and mythology in there, but it's so good. It's just there's there's so much rich mythology in the show that I don't know. It's just so good. Now, I've only seen like 520 episodes of this series. So I'm not even done with this series cuz I think I right now I'm in the Fishman Island arc. So I'm like at 520 something. Like I'm in the 500s. So I'm not even close to finishing this anime. Um, there is like over 1,000 episodes, so it's really hard to recommend people One Piece because it's so daunting to tell. Hey, yeah, watch One Piece. How many episodes? How many seasons? Oh, I don't know, about 1,000. So it's kind of hard to like recommend the show and just explain what the show is because it's so complex and so like not hard to understand. Don't get me wrong. It's very easy to understand. But there's so much to cover when you have to explain all the different aspects of the show. Like you have pirates, they have powers. Everyone has a backstory. There's a shady world government. There's marines. There's warlords, and there's these different sections of the ocean. There's the mystical One Piece that nobody knows what it is. So it's hard to recommend the show, but you know, give it a shot. If you like any kind of like adventure, how can I compare? The thing is, like, I need how to explain it to a person has never seen it before. It's an adventure, a pirate adventure. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean if the pirates all had superpowers. That's like the most simplest way of me to explain what this series is and why I love it. And I'll probably be watching this until I'm old because I don't know when the end is near. I mean, the Oda did say that we're at the final stretch of this story, so we'll see. There is a live action show coming on Netflix, which I'm worried is not going to be good because we've been burned before by live action animes before. I mean, the most recent one was Cowboy Bebop, which was just whatever, and then there's Death Note, which was just awful. Um, I'm hoping this one will change. It's funny too because I said it once. Of all the animes that have come out, like that should not be live action, I said One Piece is the one that shouldn't be live action because it would be hard to adapt a lot of the things that they do on that show, in that anime. For example, let me get to the character designs. Like the character designs are probably one of the strangest character designs in all of anime. There's no anime that looks like One Piece. There really isn't because the character designs are so extreme and you have people that look like fishes, then you have giant people and you have skinny people and then you have like people that are the size of like it just goes to like each extreme when it comes to character design. I mean, the most normal character designs that you have is a Straw Hat crew compared to all the villains and all the I mean, one of the first villains they fight is literally a clown that can take himself apart, a clown pirate named Buggy. So this is a kind of character designs and premises that we get. I mean, we have a talking reindeer, so that's the kind of show it is. But that's the reason I love it. It's like the character designs are just so out there that there's no anime that looks like it. It has its own unique style. I hope I'm not overselling because, like I said, for some people, One Piece is just too daunting, too weird, too, you know, and it's not for kids either. At first glance, you might think it's a kids anime. It is not. There is a ton of violence. Characters die. There is smoking and drinking, and they also use bad words. I mean, it's not in the R-rated territory, but it's PG-13, so it's not like a kids show. Um, People get hurt in this, and characters die. Also, the animation over the years have gotten so much better. Like since the show started, I think the show started, the anime started in '99, but um, yeah, I just love the show. It's just so good. My favorite character is I can't decide which my favorite character is. I go back and forth. It's either Zoro, Luffy. I like Brook because I think Brook is hilarious. He has such a so Oda has this weird thing, and in the anime, I don't know, like the manga probably that all like the villains or hero like some of the characters just have weird laughs. That's like a thing in One Piece, like just characters having weird laughs. I am not gonna recreate them, but they're just take my word for it. They're weird, especially with it the character Brook, which is the musician skeleton. Uh, yeah. I the show is the anime is just so good. Like I said, the world building. I don't know. Hopefully, this has convinced some people to check it out. Like, cause trust me, I used to be a hater. I used to be a hater back in the day. I used to like so. If I can be converted to watching this, I think most just give it a shot. Um, it is daunting because it is like 1,000 episodes. Um, and I haven't even seen every episode either. So, like I said, I'm currently in the Fishman arc. So, yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk about One Piece. So, I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, it wasn't a rambling mess, and my noisy neighbors hopefully didn't ruin everything. And Arrow, which is my cat, um, just wanted to say hi. Now he's quiet when I'm about to finish this podcast. Now he's quiet. Do you want to say anything before we leave, Arrow? You want to say something? Oh, now you're quiet. Okay. All right. Peace out. Bye.